go ahead and get started. So I'm Shannon. I'm the operations manager with Best Choice Realty. I have Candice here as well, which I know that she's getting her mic all sorted and everything like that. But we've got for today, we're going to be talking about sphere of influence, marketing around that, and how we can kind of pick up some natural and organic business as we go into the fall quarter. So I think one of the big things that I'll share, at least for me personally, is kind of like, let's dive into a lot of that traditional marketing. It's let's shore up what we're working on right now to make sure we're running our business like a business. And a lot of those other, autopilot type of things that we're doing systematically every month are done. And then we can kind of focus on some of the other types of marketing endeavors. So one of the things I know that, if you haven't already kind of set some of these things up, I'm a big believer of making sure that you've got some sort of quarterly mailer of sorts sent out to your sphere of influence. The sphere of influence would be like your friends, your family, people like that love you, they want to see you succeed, those types of people. Having something going out to them quarterly is something that's very valuable. And then kind of pairing that with some of the monthly activities, which could be like a newsletter, an email newsletter. I know Candice and I were talking earlier today about incorporating video, like kind of getting our face in front of people to share what's going on in the market. They want to see our faces. They want to know, in our local marketplace, what's going on versus what's going on in the national news. So I know Candice is here tonight, and we were just going to kind of shoot the breeze a bit and kind of talk about what we're doing with our own sphere of influence and why it's like, I feel like every client is coming out of the woodwork every week. I know Candice is probably feeling the same way. Are you there, Candice?
Yeah, sorry, I'm my internet.
Perfect.
So I'm on a different Wi-Fi connection. Hopefully will stick. Sorry about that, guys. But
No worries.
so yes, I'm back on. And I just want to share a little bit of my story this year, if that's okay. I know that I allowed myself to kind of get caught up in the noise of the interest rates. Their interest rates are too high and nobody's buying, or we have, 50%, we're expected to do 50% less transactions this year. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I have goals, and I want to achieve them. And I set goals normally every year about this time of year. The beginning of this year, 2023, I don't know what happened. I don't even want to make up excuses, but I got very comfortable in what has been happening over the last few years. My phone rings, right? Referrals happen, and they were happening without me having to do much. Well, the first quarter of this year, I looked at my transactions. I had 4 closings. That's 1 a month, which that's nowhere near my pace. I average about 20 to 30 transactions a year. So that average is literally 25. That means 2 transactions a month, right? So we're at the end of the first quarter. My CPA messages me and says, Candice, your quarterly taxes are due. And the amount was $7,500. Well, I had 3 referrals, not actual transactions, 3 referrals that closed and 1 of my own transactions. So we do the math. Referrals don't necessarily pay as much, but I was really proud of myself and kind of shooting for a different type of goal this year. My goal being 12 listings, 12 buyers, and 12 referrals. So sometimes we move our focus a little bit and things do shift, but I was not pacing to meet a goal of a total of 36 closings, whether they be referrals or transactions of mine. Nonetheless, $7,500 is due for my quarterly taxes, and I think I made half of that. So I'm thinking to myself, well, what do we do? I haven't had this situation in the last, I don't know, maybe since I started real estate in the last 6 years. I hadn't had a situation where I'm getting ready to fork out $7,500 and I've only made that amount. So money driven. So this is April. Mother's Day is around the corner. And I just challenged myself. And I said, I'm going to contact mothers in my sphere, in my database, and the mothers that I know that are friends, family, and just reach out and wish them a happy Mother's Day. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I know I made it through about somewhere between 50 and 60 calls to mothers in a week's time frame, just to wish them a happy Mother's Day. Some of those calls resulted in conversations that, went a little bit further than the surface. And others, it was, thank you and happy Mother's Day to you, Candice. I'm glad you're doing well. And, and just let me know if you do have any plans, real estate related plans this year. I want to support you. I am here. Happy Mother's Day. It's very simple phone call. And the first few calls, I'm not even going to lie, were challenging. But I don't even know why they were, because by the time we had that other end conversation and I'm making these connections, they're more happy to hear me than I was, to make these calls. Call reluctance is a real thing. But I also, I knew that I needed to make some money and I needed to make it pretty quickly. I've got this, quarterly taxes that are getting ready to be paid out and I'm not even making enough to cover them. So this is May, right? Mother's Day is May. June, my transactions started picking up. I've got a couple of listings. By time July came around, these listings are getting ready they're closing, they're selling. And here we are with 6 transactions closed in July. Keep going, keep going, keep going. 8 transactions closed in August. More than I've ever done in a month. And guys, that was a GCI of 6 figures. I just want to encourage you guys, make the calls. Even though it sometimes feels difficult, they want to hear from you more so. And don't worry about what do I say. Don't worry about that. Just check on your people. How are you doing? I want to wish you a happy Mother's Day. Do you have any upcoming real estate related plans? Nope, not looking to do anything, Candice. Okay, that's great. Well, if you do have any plans in the future, please don't forget about me. And if you know of anybody else that is looking to buy or sell, be sure to send them my way. Stay in touch with your sphere. And I guess for me, like I said, in the past, my phone was ringing. I've been told that the way things are right now, there is so much noise out there in reference to interest rates, in reference to, make a move. I've got to make this move, Candice. I don't know, I want to downsize. I want to upgrade. We're going to have to put these deals together. And people still, it's no different when COVID hit, you guys. People still need to buy and sell. So we've got to just, I think now though, more than ever, we're going to need to go out and make the deals happen. Have the conversations, get belly to belly with your people, your contacts. It is proven, if you pick up your phone right now, you should look at the number of contacts in your phone. You should have, if that number is, let's say, well, my number is 1,947 contacts in my phone. Times that by 3%. I have probably within the next year 58 potential transactions. And if I'm not making the phone calls and reaching out to these people, I'm not going to get them. So look at your database, look at the number of people, make the calls. If you need to have some support or somebody else to make the calls for you, if you want to sit down and sit in a room setting and we make the calls together. Somebody said to me, Candice, do you mind sitting with me on Zoom while I make some calls? Absolutely, I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't want to do that like every month, but if that call reluctance has gotten to you so thick that, just need a little bit of that extra that know that, and I'm making my calls on the other end. Absolutely. October 18th, save the date, will be a call night in Tukwila. And we're going to come in, bring your phones, bring your call lists, whatever, and we're just going to make calls together. We'll have some prizes as well for those that make, connections and make appointments. And then if you don't have anything else to say, just get belly to belly with that person. Make an appointment. Do you want to meet up for lunch? Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about whatever. I don't even think that matters more so than being in their face and connected with them, so that when the time comes, you are that person that they're going to reach out to. If all they hear from you is, the mailers that you're sending quarterly, or, postcards and, whatever, that you need to make the phone calls. And it might be a text message. If you are not as comfortable, do the text message. Put together a video chat. It's like, hey, it's Candice. Wanted to reach out and just say hi, happy fall. Wishing you, what is it? Pumpkin spice and latte season. The sweater weather is here. It doesn't have to be anything where I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed with making sure that we have the proper words to say. Just get belly to belly with your people, make a connection, make an appointment, get out and have some conversations with them.
Yeah. And I think it's pairing it with some of those other things that are a little bit more behind the scenes. I think, the last couple of years, you're right, Candice, it's been easy. People have been calling us. It's now we're going to have to go the other direction, and we're going to have to get a little gritty, and start making those connections and pairing it with some of the advertising and marketing efforts that maybe we've been putting in place, or should have been putting in place at least the last several months while it's been slow. But there's plenty of market, clients out there, like Candice is saying, and this is kind of she speaks the truth, I suppose, right? I think we've all been in the situation this year where there has been a client that has gone and listed with someone else. Mm-hmm. And, and that's hard when you think about that, where you're like, gosh, what could I have done differently? And, whenever that has happened to me in the past, I always look at it and I take it very personally. I don't tell the person, obviously, but I take it very personally. And the fact that I think about that question very clearly. I go, what could I have done differently, where I could have been, maybe I needed to ask that question. Maybe I needed to get out of my own way and ask that person, say, hey, when is a good time for me to sit down and talk about, you've been talking for the last several months with me when I've been at this and this such and such activity, when it would be a good time for me to sit down with your husband and let's talk about next steps to get your house on the market. I've been in that situation where I go, gosh, why didn't I just do that? Yeah. And sometimes it's hard, especially with friends, close friends and family, but they are waiting for your phone call. I had one where I had a family member that was moving out of state, and it was not a situation necessarily that I was excited about potentially listing their house, but I did it anyway. I got out of my own way and I was like, you know what? I'll keel over and regret this if I do not send this message. What's the worst that they can say? And the worst they can say is, oh, I'm not ready right now. And that's okay. Right.
Exactly.
But I went ahead and I sent her the message, and it was a text message because obviously I was too nervous to pick up the phone call, and that's okay. Sometimes that's okay. And she called me when she got the text. She's like, oh my gosh, do you have time this Saturday? That would be amazing. Like, I have been waiting for your phone call. And so I think, I'm thinking about the amount of business that is potentially passing our way because we're so scared of picking up the phone and just talking to someone that already knows us. and
Yeah,
asking them how they are doing, because the return question usually is, how are you doing? What's
right.
new with you? How is the market?
Mhm.
And that's a good opportunity for us to share with a positive outlook of what we're seeing in our marketplace, which is not bad. If you look across the nation, our little marketplace is doing pretty dang good.
And it's a nice balanced market. I mean, it's a great opportunity for the buyers that were challenged and kind of just took a back seat over these last few years to get in. If
Yeah.
it's affordable for them, really dive in and have the conversations. Don't spend other people's money because you wouldn't pay 7% for a house. Don't do that. Let them see what they can do, because still, no matter what, I believe that owning a home is better. Or even thinking about too, I know that we have our Jenny and our office, one of our office managers for Tacoma. She's got a lady who kind of like is scared to make that move. And I said, don't stop having the conversations. The lady is 75 years old and in a 2-story house. That's not comfortable. And yeah, she's got the fear of, making this move and doing a contingent offer. But to be honest with you, it's the best time for her to do it. Because when they do, if they go down, right? We don't want to sit and wait for them to go down, but when they go down, let's talk about what's really going to happen. We'll be back at square one where we were a few years ago, making offers well over asking, waiving all the contingencies, and some of our buyers won't even have an opportunity. They won't have the fight in them to do it. So the other thing I would say too, think outside the box. Think about the D's. Tom Ferry shared this with me. He said diapers, that's the new baby, death, diamonds, marriage, diplomas, graduation, defaults, and then deployment or relocation. People still need to make moves and they want to. Or like I said, Jenny's 75-year-old client who's like literally in a 2-story house, barely making it up and down the stairs. And I feel like she really deserves to be in a rambler, a ranch home. So think of some things that you can, I think the D's, those are the triggers, right? When we're having these conversations, babies, grandkids, graduation, all those things as well. And the only other thing is 7.5%, 7%, it's not really a bad interest rate when it comes to home ownership and the value that a home is going to bring. We are still increasing in value. Keep that in mind. We're still increasing in value in our homes.
Yeah. And there's even with what we're hearing nationally, it's locally, that's what we're seeing. We shared last week, I think we had one of our top producers talking about statistics, and locally we're not necessarily doing the same thing that we're seeing in the Midwest of our country. Washington's a different kind of marketplace. So, sharing the local statistics, and our MLS does a good job of making those available. That's a reason to reach out as well. If you don't know what to talk about around certain times of year to make phone calls, that's something you can share. You only need one statistic to get people kind of convinced in most cases. So, yeah. So I love that, Candice, especially well, you said it was the 5Ds.
60s.
60s. Yeah.
Deployment, default, diplomas, death, diamonds, and diapers.
Yeah. And I can say for a fact, at least in the last 30 days, I've had at least 3 of those scenarios come my way. So, what is circulating in your guys' sphere of influence right now where we can help some people? They're waiting to hear from you. They
I'm
need
so
someone.
sorry. That's 70s. Divorce. Oh goodness. Divorce.
Yeah. Yeah, divorce as well. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there's lots of investment opportunities out there. We're in the job of home ownership, getting people to the next step, right? And being there to help them. And those 70s, I suppose, is we're now at 7, right? We could keep going.
Yeah,
See if
sure
we
we
can
can.
find another one. But, with all of those different scenarios, they all need someone to help them. It is so stressful in all those situations, and it's a life change. They need someone to guide them along, and that's who better than their local real estate agent that they know and trust already. So, okay. Well, I think that's everything I think we needed to cover real quick. The last thing I will say too, so if make sure you balance it. So like we kind of started about talking with, pairing your phone calls with other types of marketing pieces, right? So don't just be relying on one source of advertising. I think, make sure you're diversifying, double down. If you're needing someone to take a look at it, you know, Candice, me, Rochelle, any of us are more than happy to take a look at what you're currently doing. At Critique, I had one of our agents who said, "Hey, can you take a look at my website that I've been working on?" I was like, "Absolutely." I was like, "I'm about to do a mailer. I want to make sure it looks, top notch before I send it out." I was like, "Of course." Looked it over. We made a couple little tweaks. He feels confident. He got it out to his 1,000 people that are in his sphere of influence. We're always happy to help you guys and make sure and critique and help and give you some suggestions if ever you're nervous. We want to make sure that you guys can put your best foot forward. So, thanks so much for jumping on tonight. If you're needing some extra help this week, it's going to be busy. I feel like we got more listings this week than we did in the last 2 weeks combined in some respects. So, yeah, it's going to be good for your buyers that are out there. They're going to have some options, that's for sure. And thanks, Candice, for sharing your story. I think that's exactly what a lot of people are hearing with right now and they're experiencing. So it's, we're not alone. Everybody had a slow Q1, and if we can kind of turn it around, it's very much possible in that short amount of time.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, what Jennifer said, she has superb connections for people dealing with that. Get connected with those people and have those conversations. There's moves
yeah.
that need to be made.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Candice. And thanks you all for joining us tonight.